gold graph almost into, there is actually one little tick of red there right before 10 minutes, but for the most part, wildly in C9's favor. I think if you had to point to anything, though, that in this third game to criticize C9 moving forward is their ability to end a game. And as we've mentioned and pointed out through all these games, that in each of them, they've kind of given a little bit of their lead back at some point.
They're rough around the edges for sure in closing out these games. Some of the fights that they take are uncharacteristic. You shouldn't be able to take fights that don't go that well in your favor when you have such a massive lead. And we saw this time again throughout the playoffs for them. It's something that's a recurring thing that will most likely be exploited tomorrow by Immortals, a team that when they faced off before, the same thing happens. You take one bad fight, they immediately go off and punish. And maybe it's the lack of communication. We hear them during the comms, and honestly, if the only thing that is able to hear is top dive, and it's good and bad.
Right. Yeah, I think it is a big problem because they are such a scrappy team in Immortals where if you just, make a mistake and fight them, then they grab Baron, and they're much better about Baron. Like, Reignover's not going to die to his blue right after getting Baron the way Procxin did this game. So I think that's something that you have to worry about moving forward.
Very much so. Well, let's talk about Envy just briefly, as this will be the conclusion of their season, essentially. Of course, still being able to return in the spring split 2017. We have to remember that this roster, this was their first split, right?
Yeah.
This is a challenger team that came in, made it into the playoffs, right? Performed in the Scotland, took down, a struggling Team Liquid, but this is still a feat. This is something to be proud of in terms of your first kind of foray into the league scene.
Yeah, absolutely. They've had a great first run for the team. The players are somewhat rookies as well, at least Laud, right? He's never really played on a full split for the LCS. And it's like an occasion that you maybe would commemorate with something like a tattoo or something, but it's still really, really good for them, looking forward to the next split because of the hopes that they came into the start, right? They just said, we want to make it to playoffs. You made it to the second round of the gauntlet. Even in the first couple of weeks, you're looking like one of the best teams in the league itself. So there's a lot of room for improvement with them.
I think as long as you put that tattoo somewhere that not everyone's going to see it, because you want to save the more visible spaces.
Yeah.
No, for when you win the finals, right?
Yeah,
you got to save the prime real estate for when you do win a world championship.
Yeah, to get your face tattoos.
Don't tattoo anything up here until you win a world final. All right, that's our takeaway from today. No, but for Envy, I do think that as an organization should be very proud walking away from this, even in light of the 3-0 here, knowing that in their first split they did put up a fight and they did accomplish quite a bit. We'll see what kind of improvements they make working towards the spring split. Focusing now back on to Cloud9, though, with that final game in the books, we can bestow the award for Player of the Series. And today, the award is going to go to the former world champion in Impact. This dude has been a monster in the postseason.
Yeah, I think he really is just the guy to watch in the postseason. He's won so many matchups against different things, Castins, the Kennons, and he gets done against everybody. He's done against Huni, Hanser, he's doing against Seraph. This guy is just beating everybody up.
And if I could change my vote, maybe now I'd be like, I want to put up Impact for best top laner here because he is, and his champion pool is as meta as it gets, which is the cool thing about it. He's playing everything that all the other regions play. He's playing all the matchups properly, and right here you see him 1v2ing. Great awareness of all his entire kit because you rarely see Nars truly utilize the hop to maximum effect, and we see him using it during the fights well, during the skirmishes, all-ins, just everywhere.
I think I really like the point you said about him playing the meta stuff. He's always been a little bit of a meta slave. He just likes playing the meta stuff, and he's been on teams before where tanks are the meta and the team's not very good, which we kind of saw last split with Energy, and it's like we need you to carry, but he just wants to do what's best for the team at all times, and now that what's best for the team is these kind of bruiser carry, only standard lanes. He's able to really maximize his strengths, and he does it in a way that he wants to. It's not like he's being greedy. It's exactly what the team needs.
One, it's an interesting point in that we look at a player like Seraph, and at times we're lauding Seraph for the fact that, hey, look at this guy, how versatile he is in playing things outside of the meta and giving his team opportunities to play, very specific counter picks. But Impact is a player who doesn't need that. As you mentioned, he's very studied in the matchups that are the most persistent in League of Legends. And ultimately, if he can stay within the meta and still perform this way against the picks, against the supposed counter picks from enemy, pocket picks from enemy teams, then I don't know how this guy gets stopped.
Well, the meta is like the rules, right? You got to know them before you break them. You can't just be a completely anti-meta player without having no idea of how it actually works. So maybe this will allow him to grow as a player and be able to play even more of those weird picks. I mean, personally, not a big fan of the Yasuo, but there are other picks out there that can work really well, particularly to surprise opponents.
I like the Yasuo just because it wasn't like a first pick, I want to play Yasuo. It was there's a lot of stuff focused against him. There's the Echo taken away. Yeah, a lot banned, a lot taken away. And so he kind of dipped into his pool and be like, nope, this isn't a good strat. I'll still beat you with something else. So I like that he's showing that he's not just I play the meta stuff, and then if that all gets banned away somehow, I'm trapped. He clearly has other things he's able to play.
And all this is made that much more important by the fact that today we talked about how important the top lane matchup would be. If you look ahead to tomorrow, even more so, right? You got Huni versus Impact. This is a crazy top lane matchup that could really, really swing the series. And I want to take a look at our regional qualifier bracket because it's mostly filled, or it is rather filled in. We just don't have our victor yet. But Cloud9 moving on to face Immortals tomorrow. The winner of that series, of course, going on to pick up a final seed at Worlds. And that match will commence following the conclusion of the EU regional qualifier, which takes place tomorrow morning. But if we really zero in on this matchup, you know, both in the top lane and then across the board, I think we're going to see a lot more trading in terms of the matchups of the lanes, for example, than we did today.
I'm super excited for this matchup because it feels like a little bit of an inevitability. Like we felt like we were going to get this on Monday, and now we are. And it's just a little bit of a run back. We've seen Turtle get exposed really hard by the Jhin from Stixxay at Toronto. And so I think like the teams are going to be able to learn from what they saw of each other playing the different matchups at Toronto and bring it into this series.
And one of the things about this matchup, too, is that the amount of play, the caliber of play, and the kind of stakes in this game should be something that is in a big-ass stage, but it's right here, and we get to kind of experience that, and it's so much more intimate for the players where you have a lot more time to just focus on your own strategy. You're not distracted by any outside factor, so the actual quality of play by these guys will most likely remain to what we see them do throughout the regular season.
I don't want to dwell on it too much here because we're going to have plenty of time to break it down tomorrow. I am certain we're going to have a fantastic series. That's going to do it for us here in LA. The IWC qualifier continues live on watch.lolesports.com. So click over to catch Lion taking on Albus Nox Luna for the second wildcard slot at Worlds. Now for myself, the casters, the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.